Good morning. This is Scott Sanford, University of Wisconsin, and today we're going to talk about the Wisconsin Irrigation Scheduling Program, or WISP, or WISP 2012. This program is brought to you from a professional development grant from the North Central region of Sayre, University of Wisconsin, and University of Wisconsin Extension. So today we're going to talk about how to set up well, basically to set up the WISP 2012 program so they can use it and get going on it, and what some of its features and benefits are. So a little historical knowledge on this, or some other resources as well. One is we've had there's a manual method to be able to do this. It's been around for a number of years. Let me just get a pointer here quick. So this is a bulletin. We just updated it. It's A3600-01. It basically tells you how to do a manual irrigation scheduling program. And it's worthwhile, if you aren't familiar with how to do it, to go through that publication, because they give you a lot of the background of how it can be done. An older program was called Wisdom. It was an irrigation scheduling and integrated pest management. It was a DOS-based program. It's no longer available, although I did run into a grower last summer that is still got a computer limping along running it because they like it so much and there wasn't a replacement for it, which hopefully this WISP program will solve that problem. You can also get Excel spreadsheets. They've been around for a number of years to help do some of the calculations we need to do when we're looking at water management of a field. The disadvantage is it's kind of a field at a time or a pivot at a time, and you have to enter all the data. The WISP 2012 program is an attempt to automate some of that work, and once you set up a farm structure, it's repeated or brought forward each year at the start of the growing season. So that's some of the brief advantages. So we're going to go through WISP 2012 here program and teach you how to set it up. So this is the introductory page. It gives a little bit of history here. Tells you a little bit about how things get organized, and some instructions on getting started. So the first thing we're going to do, and the other important thing is to download the user guide. So it's a PDF program or PDF file that's if you click either of these two links, you can download that and read through it. It's like a 20 or 30 page document. It's not very long, but it gives you some of the background, and it's another resource besides this webinar on how things are set up and stuff. So the first thing we need to do is create a Google account. We are using Google as the basically login service for this program, so that you can get to your information and nobody else can. So we're going to step through how to do that. So you can click on create a Google account. That's the best way to do it, and it's going to bring up this screen. So the first thing we need to do is we need to enter some names here. You need to choose a username for a Google Mail account, or you can use a current email account or address. The thing I would consider here is if you're going to have this for a number of people on your farm to use and access, you may not want to use a personal email for that. You want to use an email that's maybe just dedicated to this irrigation scheduling program. So that's a consideration. You'll need to choose a password and double enter it. And then there's some other information on the bottom here that you don't have to fill out. So you don't need a birthday, gender, phone numbers, and other emails. That's not required. You will have, however, have to enter, they've got a anti-robot code here, so you have to look on and decipher a number here and write it in the box. You need to check this box here. Just click on it. If you want to read what you're agreeing to, you can click on those blue text and it'll open a box to let you read a document. And then finally you hit this next step button and you've created your account. So the next thing to do is to log into or sign on to Google, and that you do by clicking on this link here, and then you're going to get, this is what my page looks like, but yours may be different, but you're going to click on one of these to choose the account you want to use, and you're off and running. Oh, you have to enter a password as well, kind of as a backup. So the other thing you might get if you forget to do that, and you click, say, on the farm status page, you'll get this page. And again, if you click on this sign in, you'll have to go through that sign in procedure to get signed in. So back on the home page, now that we're signed in, so if you're signed in, it's going to tell you right here what account you're signing in as. The next thing is to look at what the compatibility issues are that we have with this. So if there's a bug or a compatibility issue, you can go on this page, and it's going to tell you what the bugs are. If you need assistance, you can contact either of these people, and it's going to tell you which browsers kind of work the best or don't work, etc. So that's going to be one resource. If you're having issues, you might want to check here to see what's going on. It's also going to tell you the last build for these, and if you go back, your build number is right there. So if the software has been updated, it's going to let you know that. Now, it's automatically going to do that. You don't have to download anything because it's a web-based version, but just to let you know. Now, a little bit on the hierarchy of the program. This program can handle multiple farms, multiple pivots, multiple fields under a pivot, but at this point, only one crop per field. So that'll affect how you might set this up. Now, just a kind of a pictorially look at this. So I've got a farm here. I can have multiple pivots under a farm. I can have multiple fields under a pivot, and I can have one crop per pivot. Now, eventually we will have a second crop in here for those who want a double crop, but you can only grow one crop at a time per field. That's the way it's set up. Now, you know, if you had a crop that had the same root zone depth for both crops, you could get away with that, but it's so easy to set a second field up in here that you're better off doing that. Now, this structure, whatever structure you set up, is retained year to year. The farms, the fields, the pivots, all that's retained year to year. So when you go into the next growing season, all this information gets pulled forward, and then if you need to modify it from there, you can do that. So that saves a good bit of time. So a little bit about how you might want to think about setting the field up and what goes on. So typically we're going to have one field per pivot. So here's my pivot in the center, and I'm creating this all as one field. But I might want to consider that if I'm splitting a pivot, or I might have a crop on one, you know, crop over here, say crop A over here and crop B over here, I'm going to need to set up two fields in that under that pivot to manage those two crops independently. So that's one consideration. If I was to use quarters, I'd need to add more fields. There's no limit to the number of fields you can have under a pivot, but you can only have one crop per field. So that's a consideration. Now you can change it year to year, but that's a consideration you might want to consider when you're going about setting up fields and stuff, how you typically manage the area underneath the pivot. The farm status page is kind of a snapshot that kind of gives you a hit list of things you need to, or attention list of fields that you need to look at. So the red circle here, basically this is any field with a allowable depletion that's less than your desired amount, or less than 0. It's not to the wilt point, but it's less than, say, the 50% of field capacity where you want to plan on irrigating. So there'd be a list down here, and the yes or no here would indicate the fields, or the farms rather that there's an issue with that you need to attend to. So this gives you an example of one. So we've got honeydew farms here. We have a field that's under less than the allowable depletion of 0, and the field is going to show up here. So there's a field, there's the calculator projected allowable depletion that's less than 0, or less than the allowable depletion should be positive if we're in the top 50%, and the date on which that happened. So that's a hit list, immediate need to look at those as a way to do that. So the other thing is if we want to add a new farm, we can go in here, we hit the new farm button. Then we can highlight, it's going to pop up with a line that says new farm. We can highlight that and overwrite it. We can put a note in here, and then we have to press return or it won't save it. So if we weren't to press return and we try to go to a different page, you're going to lose it. So I'm going to jump out of this, and we're going to bring up the actual site. I'm going to come to this page. So here's my current status page. I'm going to add new farm here, and it sometimes will take a little bit to load a new farm because it's in the background. It's setting up all the database stuff for the new farm. So it's highlighted here. All I'm going to do is I'm going to hold my right or left mouse button. Oh, it just put them in alphabetical order. I'm going to hold my left mouse and highlight that. I can hit delete to get rid of that, or I can just start typing. And I'm going to type that in there. I might want to put maybe a quick address, and maybe what I'm going to do with that field. Then I hit return, and that saves it. And you're going to see it's highlighted yellow as the current farm. So I have no fields under that, but I have set up a farm. So we'll probably come back to that in a minute, but we're going to go back to presentation here. So that's briefly how to do that. So the next thing we want to do is we need to we go to, this is the pivots, fields, and crops page. So this is where I can add new fields, new pivots, etc. So up here in the top is going to be, let me get my pointer back up here, is going to be the farm and the pivot I've chosen. So that's what's going to, what I've chosen there, and these are the fields that are going to display that are part of that pivot that's set. and then down here is the crops that are associated with that. So yes, I've selected my pivot. That's the pivot. These are the fields, and these are the crops. So yeah, and if you ever have a question of which field you're looking at for the crops, you can look right here, and it's going to tell you. I'm just going to erase that one there so you can see it. So that's one thing, because it's if you got to highlight this field in order for it to show up down here. That's the way you choose it. So let me escape out of this briefly, and we'll go to the program. And I think I've got some here. Whoops. Let's see. Let me go here. I'm going to. So I've got 2 pivots in this one. So right now it's showing the southwest. I can go to the southeast hill and pull that up, and it's going to show me a field. If I go back to the southwest field, it's automatically going to pull this first field up and show it down here. Let me put my, if I click on south end field, it's going to highlight that, and that's going to be the field that's going to show up down here on the bottom. So just as an example. Now while I'm here, let me just show you how easy it is to add a pivot. So I'm going to click on that, add new pivot. It's going to maybe take a second here to do its thing and add a new pivot. It's going to come up here, and I can hold my delete key and get rid of all that, and I'm going to say north pivot. So there's really no limit. You name them whatever you're used to calling them. And then I'm going to need latitude and longitude, which we'll come back to here in a minute. But I'm going to need latitude and longitude. I can put some equipment in there if I want to. So I might put the type of, maybe it's a valley, pumping capacity, maybe it's 950 gallons a minute. Maybe I've got a diesel engine on it. You know, whatever you need to look at with this. Maybe it's a corner system. Whatever you need to help you identify that pivot. Now, as soon as I get done with that, I have to hit enter or return. Oh. I don't know why that did that. We'll have to check on that. You have to hit enter or it won't save that. So I've got that, and I've got a field on here. So then I'm going to highlight this field, and I'm going to say it's the on the north pivot. So I'm going to say it's a northeast quad. So maybe I'm going to split the pivot into quads. And it's got some other things in here we're going to get to, and then you have to choose your soil type on here, etc. So I'm getting ahead of myself, so I'm going to stop there, and we'll go back to the presentation, and then we'll catch up here. So going through this, we've already talked about these fields and where we can get to them. So I added a new pivot. So I just showed you how I renamed that pivot. Do now. So the equipment, this stuff is optional. I don't have to put these things in. It's going to default to the current year. And then you need latitude and longitude. And so that I need needs so that it know when it goes to find the ET data, because it's automatically going to download the evapotranspiration data for your location, it needs to know what that longitude and latitude is. And we don't have to be really precise on this, but it probably doesn't hurt, just so you know. So if you go to this, this is one of the best tools I found out there. It's itouchmap.com to figure out what that latitude and longitude would be. So I'm going to escape from this again, and we're going to go back, and I'm going to go to my latitude and longitude here. And I'm going to put in an address here. Oops. So I've put in this one before, so I'm just going to click on that. Otherwise, you'd write it out. You got to have, you know, street address, town, city. If you want to get close to your field, then you hit go. And I'm going to make it so you can see more of this. So I'm going to pull my scroll bar down over on the side here so you can see. So it's kind of centered in there. Now the field I want is over here, so I'm going to grab. I'm going to put my pointer on that red mark because that's what's driving it. I'm going to hold down my left mouse button and I'm going to drag this and drop it in the middle of that field. And then once I've done that, whoop, didn't mean to do that. I'm going to drag this down, and here is my latitude and longitude for that field. So I want it in decimal form. I don't want it in degrees, minutes, seconds. So I want it in decimal form. So I'm just going to highlight that by holding my left mouse button down and drawing the pointer across it. I can either do a right click and copy to copy it so I don't have to type that number in. And then I'm actually going to go back so I can see this. And then I'm going to come here to my pivot, and then I can do a right click and paste, and it's going to put that number in. I'm going to go back here. The other method to do this is pull across it, left mouse button, hold down, draw the pointer across, and hit the Control-C button at the same time, and that will copy it as well. And then I can go back here to hit click in the longitude box, and here again I can hit Control-V, and it will paste that in. So those are shortcut buttons for that. Now I have to hit Enter, or it won't save it. So now I've got my latitude and longitude. It knows where that's going to be. So let's go back to our presentation here. So we'll skip through that. So I've just, this takes you through the steps. This actually starts one screen away from where I started, but you would click on this longitude and latitude if you use this link. You put in your address. It's going to bring you to the map. You got control buttons for sizing and stuff on the side here. I probably should have shown you that. Let me go back to that. So when you're in this field, if I want to move it, all I have to do is hold my left pointer down, and I can drag this to any place I want. So I can do that. If I hit the plus button here on the side here, it's going to bring it in. If I hit the minus, it's going to take it out. So if I found the field was in a different spot, I could drag it and come down to another spot. Nope, let's go plus, not minus. And I could could zero into a different field, for example. So just an example. All right, let's go back here, and we're going to go step through here. It's already showed you how to do that. We got the latitude and longitude. Now, one of the things that the accuracy of this, the ET data is based on a 25-mile grid. So you really don't necessarily have to be real accurate to get a reasonable ET. Although if you put an accurate one in, and this grid ever changes, then you're set. But just to point out that you don't have to get really accurate. But the other thing is you don't know where the borderline is to that grid is. So it doesn't hurt since you're just copying and pasting. So now adding a field. Adding a field, basically, we do it similar, but we have two choices. So first we have to choose the farm, the pivot that the system is going to be under, and then I need to click on New Field. Now there's two different types here, and it depends on how I'm going to assess the crop growth curve on this. So there's two different methods. One is called percent cover, and the other is called leaf area index. And we'll explain those two here shortly. So the crop coverage is a method that we've been using for years. And basically, you go out in the field, you look at the canopy width versus the row width, and then you calculate out what that percentage is. And you do it up till from emergence to when you've hit the 80% range. So when you hit 80% cover, then that's considered, then you're going to use full ET. So what this number does, it helps adjust the ET value that you're going to use. So ideally you would measure this once a week, and here's an example. If you've got an 18-inch canopy, 36-inch rows, that's a 50% coverage. The other method to use is basically called leaf area index. And this is based on a model curve of the leaf growth on a particular crop. And in the tool right now, it's based on field corn. But we did research last summer trying to measure other different crops, and as soon as those are done, they will be incorporated into the tool as well. Now these are time-based models, not growing degree day models. So you have to be careful where you're using, what leaf area index numbers you're using. So we're doing for Wisconsin. If you're trying to use this program from a different state, it may not work as well because your growth may be different because of different growing degree days in Wisconsin. So just to give an example. So when we're adding a field, we're going to enter a name. After we choose which method we're going to use, we're going to name. We need to do the soil type, and then we're going to need to add field capacity and permanent wilt point. We'll show you where you're going to get those briefly. But let me, we're going to just run out here, and I'm going to show you, go through the steps here. So I'm going to add a new field. You got one here that's percent cover. So I'm going to highlight that. Oh, come on. Not sure why that's. Oh, you know what? I think I've got a. Let's go to this one. There we go. So I can put in a field name, so I'm just going to use ABCD. When I selected the new field, it did the percent cover. I'm going to pick my soil type, say silty loam. It will come up with default field capacity and wilt points. Then I need my target allowable depletion. And so that's going to be in inches of water. So I'm going to put 2 in there, for example. And then I have to hit enter to get that to save. There we go. Oh, it's actually in percent. I thought it was. So anyway, so if I want to do a leaf area index, I would hit the add new field on there, and it eventually will add a new field. And I can say this is river edge. I'll say it's a sandy loam, being that's near the ridge. It's going to give me some default numbers there. I need to hit return in order to make that save. And then allowable depletion, I'm going to put 50%. So this one here should be, this is my target allowable depletion. I can change it down below a little bit too, but so typically you're going to use 50%. It's going to figure out how much water you have usage by these field capacity and wilt point numbers. Now down here, while I'm here, I'm going to go into the crop. So here again, I can put a crop number in, description in here. So this might be maybe it's contracted to new produce. I can maybe say it's cucumbers. Say it's burpless. I need to put the emergence date on here. So say they came out and the emergence is when 50% of them are out of the ground. So I've just basically, you saw me, I just grabbed, it gave me a, come on, give me the chart. Well, there we go. You can just pull that up and pick a number. And this is a harvest or kill date, so we wouldn't use that until the end of the season, when we know it's, and all that does is basically end the water management thing. Then the next thing I need to do is choose the root zone depth. So that's going to depend on the crop. So I can't remember what cucumbers are, but I think they're about 18 inches. So we'll leave that. And then the fraction of the allowable depletion that we want to do, and we'll leave it at 0.5. And here again, I got to hit return, otherwise it won't save that. So now it's saved. So we're going to go back to the presentation. So the other values we need here is we need to know field capacity, and wilt point in there, so we know how much water we have to work with. So the best place to get those is from the Web Soil Survey, and I've got that down here. So with this tool, we're going to jump to it here in a minute, but I just thought we'll jump through some of what we're going to do here. So we're going to get into it. We got to put an address in here, and it's going to go to that address, and it's going to show me a map. And then I've got to I can use my scaling here to get the view that I want. So you get zoom in, zoom out, and a pan. So the pan, you got the pan, you just grab it and hold your left mouse button and drag it to the direction you want to go. And then we need to trace this field we're going to use. So we need to outline it. So there's a couple outline tools here. First one is rectangular, and this only works if the field edges are north, south, east, west. Typically, they're not perfectly that direction, so you end up using this second one, which allows you to do a polygon, basically any shape. So I'll show you this after we go through it. So you get the outline of the field. The next thing we do is so we started on the, let me get rid of some of this. So we started on the area of interest part of this. And the next thing we're going to do is go to the soil. So it's a couple over. We go to the Soil Data Explorer, and we want soil properties and qualities. And if we go under that, we're also going to click on Soil Physical Properties, and it's going to open in this drop-down menu. And then the two things we're interested in are water capacity at 15 bar and water capacity at third bar. So 15 bar is going to equal our permanent wilt point. The third bar is going to equal the field capacity. Now you're going to see in this field we've got different soil types. So it's going to account for that, or it's going to bring those up. It's going to give us an aggregate of the total. So when we click, so we're going to click this tab here. Just put a pointer and click, and it's going to open this box. So some of these are going to be default clicks. The one we want to change, we want to go to weighted average for the aggregate method. We want the top depth to be 0 because that's where we're planting the seed. And the bottom depth is going to be our root zone depth, or whatever we're managing it to. I need to click inches here. It defaults to centimeters. And then I can click the view rating button either there or down here. And it will give me, oh, all right, all kinds of arrows. Then it's going to give me a rating. So it's going to be the percentage of moisture left for a rating for each area of interest. So this is divided by soil type. So a BOB, a Boyer sand loam, it's 2.5 acres or 3.6% of this field. And it's going to give you that aggregate. Now, what number do I use is the question. So typically, if the weighted average all fall within 10%, these are pretty close to within 10%, plus or minus 10%, I would use an aggregate weighted average of this. The other thing is to look at the largest area of interest of the field. So say a field was dominated, 70% of a field was a certain type, you may want to use that type. Or you may want to use the lowest rating for the largest area. It's kind of up to you, depending on how you want to manage that field. Because if you've got a very coarse soil that doesn't hold much moisture, that's going to be where you're going to get droughtiness versus the rest of the field that may be able to hold more water. So it depends on how you want to manage that field, whether you want to manage it for the spot that's going to come into drought first, or manage it as an average, or somewhere in between. So we're going to pick that number off. So here I've taken all those numbers and I've averaged them. So you take the rating percent times the percentage to get a weighted average, and then you total those all up. So I've got 10.9 as my weighted average, and I would take that number and I would enter it in this box here. That's going to be my permanent wilt point. So then for field capacity, I do the same thing, but I'm going to use the third bar. So I'm going to click on that. You're going to get a similar window. You're going to pick the weighted average, zero depth on top, the root zone depth for the bottom. Click on inches. Click on view rating, and it will give you a similar chart, and you'd go through again and do your averaging or select the largest or lowest depending on how you want to manage it. And then that number would get entered, that field capacity number would get entered here. The other thing we need to know is total or target allowable depletion. So this is when you want to how much water you want to maintain in the soil. So it's usually between 0 and 100% of it's blank. It assumes 100%. If you're not irrigating it to 100%, then that allows some room for rainfall. And this can be changed any time. So this is the top level we want to fill the soil profile to. I had these out of order here. So that's where I'd enter the field capacity. So here, if I want to add a crop, I kind of already showed you this, but we're going to, we've got a pivot. We need to select the field here. So whatever's highlighted in yellow is the field selected, and then I can add a crop. Well, it's only going to have one crop. So then I can adjust or associate this with it, so I can select my plant type or crop type for that field. So I've got the emergence date, which is the start of a water balance. I've got my managed root zone depth, and you need to consider that if you've got a barrier, so if you got a hard pan or rock or whatever, that all needs to be taken into account when putting this number in. And then the fraction of the field capacity that I want to adjust for that crop. So this is different than the number up in the field. This is the amount of field capacity. The other allowable depletion is how full do I want to fill it. So it's a little confusing that way, but I'll explain more in a little bit. And then the harvest or kill date I mentioned, that ends the water balance. Now, if I'm double cropping, this tool doesn't allow you to do double cropping. One of the tricks you can do is set up field A and field B with the same name, and then the emergence date for the second crop starts after the emergence date for the first crop is done, after the kill date for the first crop. Now it doesn't know the difference, but that's one way to cheat on it. So you're not going to have a crop on field B until the crop comes off from field A. It doesn't know that, the tool itself, but that's a way to cheat on this for now if you're going to double crop. The crop selection, basically there's a drop-down menu that you can select the crop, and I think there's almost every imaginable crop that we'd grow, and there's another, you can choose other if you'd like as an example as well. Now let's go into the field status page. Now this is kind of a snapshot of where a field is at. So we've got so the field. This is my farm, my pivot, my field, and the date up here is going to be the date on which these would start. I'm not sure why they don't match, but I might paste something together here. So we've got our dates here. Next is a potential ET. So those are automatically filled in based on your latitude and longitude. They can be overridden. If you've got a local ET gauge, you can override those. But those are downloaded based on the calculated value from University of Wisconsin. When you're going to need to enter rainfall amounts, that's something you need to do locally. You also need to enter irrigation. The percentage moisture will be automatically calculated. Percent cover, you need to fill in. And then it will calculate the adjusted ET based on the percent cover and the potential ET. So right now this is above 80%. So the adjusted ET will match the potential ET. If it was less than that, it would do. And then this is the allowable depletion. So you can see in this spot we are low. And then if we got any deep drainage, so here's an example where we had leaching past the root zone. So that's going to show up as a red number here based on events. So the values in green we can override. You can type a new number in there and it's going to cancel out the old number and override it. The red box area is calculated. So it's going to be calculated based on the numbers we have in the green box. But we can't override those. So that's just an example. So percent moisture, I kind of skipped over that, but say I had soil moisture sensors. If I found the percent moisture differed, that I actually measured in the field differed from what the tool is calculated, I can enter a new number and it will use that number from that point on to recalculate or rebalance the water, percent water in the soil. Something about percent cover. It's measured from emergence to 80%. We need to measure about once a week. When we have a crop like potatoes, when it starts to senesce, we need to lower that by 5% a week. So we see maybe we did vine kill or we see it starts to senesce. Every week we want to take that number from the 80% mark and start backing it down. So 80, 75, 70, etc. Until it's basically out of the ground. Because potatoes will, even though the vines are killed, they will still need moisture to keep them from dehydrating. Corn can be the same way. At dent, we start reducing it by 5% a week. If we're doing alfalfa, when we after cutting, we'd go from 0 to 80% over 14 days, or about 5% a day, as the water needs for that crop based on its recovery rate. So a little bit on measuring percent cover. So here's an example. This is new crop right out of the ground. If you take a ruler and kind of measure that, I came up with about 17% based on this. So we're measuring the width here versus the distance between the different rows to come up with a number. So even though this isn't filled in here, what we're trying to assess is how big the root ball is underneath the ground, and it's basically proportional to the percent of the canopy above the ground. So that's really what we're trying to assess. So here's some other fields. So This one over here would be about 36, so we'd measure there versus the width of the fields across. This one we would, this was greater than 80%, so if we looked at here, we have very little distance left between these crops. So that's an example of how we do percent cover. Here's another one. Here we have some soybeans, so example of that. Again, some other examples. So these have a nice canopy on them, so they're a little more easier to define, but just some examples. So this one over here would be greater than 80%. So the question is, should weeds be included if we have a weedy field in percent cover when we're managing the water moisture? Question is yes, or the answer is yes. Until those weeds have been killed with a weed killer, they will cause evapotranspiration of water out of the soil. So we do need to account for that. So that's just, if you got a weedy field, you need to take that into account, especially if you're during a critical time period. The field status page, so we'll get back to this and just kind of show you some, there's our percent cover. The graph down here is illustrated from the data up here. So that's just trying to do an example, and here's the leaching event. So here's the data down here that's associated with the data up here. So with the field capacity can never, the water in the soil can never go above field capacity. So anything above field capacity is a leaching event. So that's just an example. So in this graph, where you look at this, the red line, that's the from the red line to the top here is what we're trying to manage for water. The green line is basically a percentage of the allowable depletion that we're going to manage. So when we irrigate, we want to get to this mark, but we don't want to go above this. So this area here is left for some rainfall. And then the pink area, that's going to indicate where we have a deficit, so where it's dropped below 10. The other thing this tool does is it projects 2 days into the future and basically bases that on a 7-day average of 7 previous days to get that average. So that's kind of tries to help the irrigation manager figure out where he's going to be in the next few days. Do I need to irrigate tomorrow, or can I wait a couple days? How fast is that water leaving the soil? So it's trying to give him another tool to use to make some decisions. The other thing on the left side of this screen gives total seasonal rainfall rates, and here's my projected allowable depletions for 2 days into the future based on this. Now, looking at those two spots a little closer, so here's my totals for a season. I can click on this link here, and it will download that as a common delineated file, so I can bring it into Excel or any other spreadsheet program. So it's going to do it from the time of emergence through the harvest date, or October 31st, which is the last day that we put out ET numbers. The other thing we can do is we can change on the fly the percent that we want to fill, how far we want to fill. So we're trying to control is this level here. How full do we want the soil to be? So that's this box here. We can change that number on the fly for the field to figure out where we want to fill that to. So basically that allows room for rainfall rate. So, and we can adjust that, you can see, through the season. So here's an example of what the archive output would be. If we bring that down into an Excel spreadsheet. And I would highly recommend at the end of the season you do this, so you have the historical values. The program does not allow you to go back at this point and get those values. So sometime before the end of the year, you want to download these values or this data, because that could be useful on a year-to-year basis. Plus the fact it's going to give you some numbers, I believe, for reporting. I think it's going to give you your total irrigation numbers and stuff that will help you with the reporting. Now the other portion of this program, to try to reduce the amount of work, allows you to set up weather stations. And basically a weather station is a group of fields that when I have to go enter rainfall rates or irrigation numbers, will act together. So it could be stuff under one pivot or a group of pivots that are close to each other. So we're to associate the weather station with the field. So I only have one done here. If you hit the show, it's going to, and you can add a weather station. So I thought it was going to bring up a different screen here, but so if we add, if we hit the weather station, it's going to bring it up. You add a name here. You can put a location. You can put some notes, and then you pull in the fields you want to use. So here's available fields that are in the area, and if I highlight it on those and hit add, then it's going to bring them on this side over to here, and then they're loaded for the future. So that's an example. If you want to do more than one field, you hit to use your shift key to bring more than one over at a time. That stuff's optional, so we just covered that. So now if I bring up, here's my weather station. This is a MultiEdit Input page. So I bring up my weather station, so that's a group of fields. Here's the fields that are associated with that weather station. I can enter rainfall rates, irrigation, soil moisture, potential ETs, percent cover, whatever I want, and it's going to apply them to all these fields, and it's going to overwrite any other data that's in that database currently. So that's an issue. You got to make sure that you want to do that versus doing them individually. If you want to do them individually, you have to bring up the individual field and run those numbers in versus doing that. Now the program only allows you to re-enter or data in a block 3 times. I'm not sure what happens after that, but that's what they claim is you can only do it 3 times. So that kind of concludes it. So where do you find it? It's at whisper.cals.wisp.edu. If you go to that website, you can find it, or you can find it at this link here. So hopefully that was helpful in getting you started using this program. And if you have other questions or something, you can. We've posted all the webinars on this link here, so you can go learn about other parts of irrigation management or equipment. And if you have any questions, you can send them to either John or I, and we will take care of them. With that, we'll call us a day.